Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Thank you for joining us as we continue to explore this amazing story in Luke chapter 15 and how it reveals the heart of God to us. In verse 1, we see it says that the sinners and tax collectors, the riffraff, one translation says, were gathering around Jesus, and he welcomed them. He treated them like old friends. He ate with them, which was a sign of acceptance and value and valuing of the person and approving of the person. They were these irreligious types, the non-churchy types, were attracted to Jesus. They wanted to be around him. They saw him in a very positive light. That verse shocks me and has gripped my heart for a lot of years with this question: why isn't it like that today? Why are people not flocking? Why are the non-churchy people not flocking to Jesus, not flocking to our churches, not interested in gathering to us? So much here, especially in North America perhaps, but so many of non-churched people, the ones we call the irreligious, don't have any interest whatsoever in coming to our churches or even hanging out with Christians. And in fact, it's far beyond that. In fact, in many cases, they have a negative response to the church. They have a negative response to Christians. They want to be far away from them. They're kind of like the younger son. They want to get away from it all. And we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is it that way? Is there something about the way we're presenting God that isn't attractive? Is there something about the way that we're representing God? You see, I have to be honest. I think a lot of times we, in North America and in our churches and as Christians, we're more like the Pharisees. Nobody wanted to flock to the Pharisees. Nobody wanted to gather to them. Nobody wanted to celebrate with them and eat with them. They wanted to avoid them. And I'm afraid sometimes we have become like that, where the image we project of the Father is one that does not attract people. It does not make them want to be in his house and to be in his presence. You see, the religious people of that day were saying, we don't want a God like that. We don't want a God who just welcomes everybody as is, where is. Because that's what Jesus was doing. He was welcoming them as is, the way they are. He didn't say, if you change, I'll come and have supper with you. You know, he came along to Zacchaeus, remember? And Zacchaeus is a tax collector, a reprobate tax collector. And Jesus said, I want to eat at your house. I want to come and fellowship with you. And he didn't ask him first to change. That is so different, I think, from the image that most people have. They think if we're going to gather with Christians, then we've got to change this and we've got to change that, or they won't accept us. They won't welcome us. They won't want to fellowship with us. So the religious types are saying, we don't want that sort of God. We don't want a kind of God who just welcomes and accepts and approves and loves and values and fellowships with those who flaunt his laws, those who don't comply with his instructions and his rules and regulations. We see it in the elder brother, later on, when he's saying, you've never given me a goat to celebrate with my friends. In other words, he's saying, I don't want to celebrate with the kind of people like my brother. I want to celebrate with my kind of people, the people who comply with religious regulations like I do. And I'm afraid sometimes that speaks to us as a church, as Christians as well. We have to be so vigilant in not becoming the kind of people who only want to be with people like us. In fact, in the New Testament church, that was the hallmark of the New Testament church, that they loved people who weren't like them. And so here we need to ask ourselves this: why is it that the non-churchy types, the irreligious types, don't want to gather to us, don't want to be around us and be in our presence? Sometimes we justify that by saying, well, they don't want to hear the truth about God's laws. That's exactly what the Pharisees were saying. The Pharisees were saying, our priority is to let you know what sin is and that you're a sinner and that you need to change and you need to convert. And that message was a barrier to them coming to be in the presence of the Father. Jesus said, let's welcome people, and my presence will transform them. See, that's the secret Jesus knew, wasn't it? He knew, if I can have people, if I can get time with people and get them in my presence will change them and transform them. And that's the secret behind all of this, I believe. The Father values people, as is, where is. And so Jesus valued people, as is, where is. So today, I just want to challenge us to ask ourselves this question. In my Christian walk, in the way I value non-churchy type people, is my priority to let them know the standards and rules and regulations and righteousness of God? Is that my first priority, or is my first priority welcoming them and loving them and valuing them and just getting them in the presence of God and let Him do the transforming in their lives? Which is that for me? And we need to ask ourselves, what can we as churches do to, not to make it more attractive, but to be more attractive? Salt and light are attractive things. Salt is something that's sought after. Light is something people want. And so that's the way it should be with us as well. So anyway, Luke chapter 15, verse 1. The people, the non-religious people, the irreligious people, were gathering to Jesus. And that's what this story is about. Because it so upset the religious people that they were saying, we don't like this. And Jesus said, well, let me tell you a story that explains it. That's what we're going to examine in the next few days and weeks ahead, examining the story that explains this phenomenon of the irreligious wanting to gather to Jesus and be in His presence. Let's think about that today. God bless. We'll talk again tomorrow.